Hello. So today I thought I should teach how to draw real people eyes, because on my last video I received some criticism because I guess that you guys aren't very receptive, I suppose, to the idea of animals as real art. So I got some criticism. I got compared to a guy who draws dead horses, but he doesn't draw people. So I was going to show that I can draw people, and that I'm, to kind of just to give my tutorials a little bit of validity. So I have to show that I can draw people. The eye is a complicated shape because it's so nuanced in tiny little ways. Like, you start out with a lemony shape kind of, but then you draw a football shape on the one end, and it curves very carefully to the eyeball shape. And over here you kind of cut this part off, and this is that little pink thing that makes you cry if you poke it too hard, or if you're scratching your eye or whatever. A thing that a lot of people forget is the eyelids. You can see them. They're these like wrinkly shapes around the eye. I always do a couple because it really, one of them, people are kind of like, what is that? But if you do two, people are more like, yes, I see what that is now. So I do a couple of those, sometimes a lot of them. They have them on the top too. This is kind of key. It's like a stretched out piece of skin right here. It looks a little different and gross. You should look at a real person's eye before you really try this, but then you can use this video as helping to help you along with looking at a real person. Don't forget the eyelashes. Everybody has them, man and woman, especially effeminate men have them. Like this guy, he would be really girly if he were a guy. Maybe this is a girl wearing fake eyelashes or something. The middle part, I don't know what it's called exactly. I know it's the iris and the pupil, but I don't know the name for the two of them together. I suppose it's the pupil. You could call it that. People would know what you're talking about. So the pupil is this black dark part that you have in the center, and you just fill it in really dark. There's not a lot of detail to do on it, except something. If you're drawing a big, this is bigger than a real eye, obviously, so it would have to be a close-up or something. So if you're doing a close-up like this, maybe the camera won't pick up on this, what I'm doing right here, but I'm putting a jagged edge all along the edge of the pupil, because the pupil actually isn't a clean break from the iris. It's a little jagged if you look up close at a person's eye. Then the iris has all these lines through it. Not through it, I mean, they go toward the center style, right? It's good when you're doing the iris, to do the darker part in the top, to do a darker kind of iris in the top out of these spikes. You just make more of them and make them closer together and push harder if you're using a pencil or a pen. Some pens work that way too, because the shape of the iris actually is such that if the light is coming from this direction, which, I mean, my light's coming from this direction, but if the light's coming from this way, the dark part is kind of like pointing to the light, and the light part is over here. So, I mean, again, check it out. Just go get a mirror and a piece of light or something, you know. This is if you're drawing a really big eye, and you have to draw. I mean, you can draw little eyes kind of the same way too. You just make this shape, which is difficult to get a hold of, I know, but if you practice enough, you will have it down where you can just draw it anytime, like me, like bam, there's an eye. That's what sometimes it's on papers that are important and stuff. And you just do the same sort of method. Oh, I forgot to put a shine on this eye, which would be fine if I had an eraser anywhere near me to fix it, but I'll have to keep that in mind in the future. So put a shine right here, and it's just like a white spot in the midst of your iris as you're doing these little lines, and you make them dark up here except for the white spot, and you make them pretty like that. And don't forget these lines, a couple of them, one on top too. And a trick for doing the other eye is that it's usually a little bit longer and flatter. Like right here is flatter than up here on this eye. So I guess it's your right eye of most people is usually shaped more flat compared to your left on most people. Eyelashes, and don't forget to shade the actual eyeball part, because a lot of people forget that the eyeball is an object just like everything else, and it needs to be shaded. My lead broke. Even big ones, especially on a big drawing, you definitely have to shade it. If it's bigger than your finger is a good way to tell if you should call it a big drawing. You should shade every eye, but big ones are bigger than your finger. A good way, if you're having trouble with getting the shape of the eye down, is to think of it as a mouth. So like, if this were a person's mouth, you'd have some teeth, you know, and it would be like you're blowing a spit bubble, and the sphere, because it's this part, the eyeball itself is a sphere, and then the eyelid wraps over it like if this person had a big sphere in their mouth. Okay, so that is how to draw an eye. I didn't really use up the full page, but that's how to do it. By Davey. 08 again, because I don't know what day it is, and I will see you next time.